So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Standards 2.0 Integrating Academic Standards and Workplace Skills. This is Webinar 2. Today is August 1st. Our presenter is Anne-Marie Molinari-Sanders, and my name is Olga Scamilla, and I'm going to be your host and moderator. Anne-Marie, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope everyone is doing great. I want to say I'm excited to have everyone back that joined me for Webinar 1 on Tuesday, and I see that we have at least 3 new people, Brenda, Marissa, and Ginger, and I am glad that you are joining me today. We're going to kind of get into more of where we're going to go in a few minutes, but I wanted to welcome you. I also am excited and a little bit nervous, and I know she's going to laugh. Our Dr. Deborah Hargrove, our director, is joining us today, as well as Beth Ponder, our Director of Professional Development. So welcome everyone again to Standards 2.0, Integrating Academic Standards and Workplace Skills. This is Webinar 2, and if you are joining me and you did not go to Webinar 1, we are literally just jumping right in and starting where we left off. There's not going to be any review from Webinar 1, so my suggestion is to download the PowerPoint that's in the ILEA Community of Practice and all of the resources, and then all of the resources from today's webinar, including the PowerPoint, and all the handouts are also available. So I hope everybody got that. And let's go ahead and let's start looking at what we're going to do today. And you know what? I realized that some of you know me, but maybe some of you don't. And I am Anne-Marie Molinari-Sanders, and I work with Train PD, which is part of TCAL, which is a project of Texas A&M University, and I'm a professional development content specialist. But I like to say that I am a PD specialist with a teacher's heart, because the majority of who I am was a teacher in adult education, as well as I did cut my teeth a little bit in K through 12 as a special education teacher. So my love is really teaching and instruction and also standards. So this is a dream to be able to do this with y'all today. Now, we do have 3 webinar objectives. And our webinar objectives are, we're going to identify categories for the new Standards 2.0 rubric for evaluating lessons. There is a wonderful rubric that you're going to have that you can use when you think about your lessons. And so we're going to take a look at that. And then we're going to evaluate 2 lessons by using Standards 2.0, the employability skills framework that we talked about during Webinar 1, and the rubric that I'm going to introduce, and you have a copy of. And we're going to discuss general ways to contextualize a lesson to align to Standards 2.0. We're going to dig a little deeper into the lessons that you already have, and we're going to look at some lessons. All right, so we're going to jump in, and I want to see what we remember. And you can use your notes, but I kind of want to see what you can remember. I'm kind of modeling a strategy that I hope we all use in our classrooms, which is let's activate some prior knowledge right now and see what we remember. So the first thing I want you to type in the chat pod for me is name the 3 new additions to the Content Standards book. That's the first thing I want you guys to put in the chat pod. Okay, Brenda, okay. Industry examples, good. What about ONET did we add? We added something specific in ONET. Melanie, industry examples, ONET, detailed work activities, bam. Okay, very good. Make a connection of academics to employment, Karen, very good. Okay, so if you look at the content standards, there's 3 new categories. And Melanie nailed it. And so these are the 3 new categories right here. If you look at the standards, you're going to see ONET elements, or those skills, which are those critical skills. You're going to see the detailed work activities, the DWAs, I like to call them, and the industry examples, okay? And those are going to show up for almost every standard, okay? Not all of them, but most of them, you're going to have those, okay? And Melanie says core components, very good. Okay, very good. Now, all right, let's look at the second question. You guys are already answering the second question. Very good. Which is, name the 3 components of the employability skills framework. I'll let you read.
Well, Melanie says core components are applied knowledge, effective relationships, and workplace skills. And Larissa says applied knowledge, workplace skills, and effective relationships.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, yep, and Brenda says, very good. Effective relationships. That's exactly right, and those are considered the macro skills, right? Those are those macro skills, but then there's other skills underneath that, and those are the applied knowledge, effective relationships. Very good. Larissa says micro skills under each one, and then the workplace skills. Okay, very good. So that, you guys got that? Excellent. And we talked about how it's important when you're looking at your lessons to not only have your Standards 2.0 book and look at your standard, but look at that employability skills framework. And that's going to become even more important when we look at the rubric. All right, now, we also learned about this. What are the 4 in-demand industry clusters included in Standards 2.0? And I also want to know if you remember why they were chosen. There were 4 of them, and there were 3 reasons why, too. And that's not one of your questions, but I'm still curious.
Karen says in-demand entry, mid-level jobs. Michael says in-demand in Texas. Karen, advanced manufacturing, construction, extraction, health care, sciences, transportation, distribution. Jackie says healthcare, transportation, construction, and they are high demand in Texas. So yeah, pretty much.
I'm cheating now. That's okay, Marissa. You're looking at your notes, but that's okay. They're in every reason. They're in demand. They're high demand, right? You can get a job. And then the last one was there was an articulated pathway for certification, right? There was a pathway to get stackable certifications, accessible stackable certification. That's not to say that you can address your standards-based instruction to another industry. That's not the point. There are other industries that you can overlay the standards to, but those are just the hot demand industries in Texas. All right. Very good. Thank you. Now this one I'm going to kind of just, we're going to review here too, is we talked about the ONET critical element skills that were examined during the Standards Alignment to Industry Clusters project, and the Education Testing Service did a deep dive analysis. They did this research into figuring out what 10 critical elements show up across all the industry clusters. And there were 10 skills, and I'd like you to try to name 5 of them for me, please.
Larissa says communication, resource management.
I'm wondering if that's from the employability skills framework. Think about those ONET critical skills, Larissa, those ONET skills. Communication is one of them. Maybe resource management was one. I may be getting confused. Okay.
Reading comprehension.
Very good. Michael. Hi, Mike. Very good.
Mike says reading, writing, listening, speaking, math. Karen says knowledge, dependability, cooperation, writing, oral expression.
Very good. Okay, so you guys are hitting on them, and I just want to show you, we're not going to read them all, but here they are. And so I think that resource management, I can't remember what was was up there. I think resource management falls under the employability skills framework. We've talked about a lot of skills. But when you look at the sub-area standards, you're going to notice that those ONET critical skills come up. And you'll notice that right before that sub-area, they're going to list the ONET critical skills in your book. And we talked about that during the first webinar. And then each one of the sub-area standards underneath that sub-area is those ONET critical skills will apply. Okay? All right. So let's keep going. Now, one more warm-up exercise, and this one I'm just kind of throwing out there to you. You know, you have the Standards 2.0, and you have the standards, but you've also got these industry examples and these detailed work activities, right? But you also have ONET, and you can utilize ONET. So how will you use ONET when you're planning or delivering your Standards 2.0 lessons? What can you go find in ONET that you may not have by looking at the standards? Or what may you be looking for? Let me see what your answers are. I kind of threw this one out there. Very good. Karen says job, pay scales. Very good. What else? And then we'll move on here. Yep. Very good. Very good. And, okay, good. Very good. I like this response right here from my little chat. I like this response right here. I'll use it with students to show them what they can do with the job and how it can cross into other fields. The other thing too is also think about other industries that aren't in the standards. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on from this review. You guys have got it. I just wanted to see. So these were some of the answers. Research specific jobs to determine the skills and detailed work activities required. Career exploration with students. Answering this student question, why do I need to know this? All right. So what we're going to do now is we are going to hear from one of the employer partners that worked on the Standards Alignment to Industry Cluster project. And Olga's going to go ahead and she's going to put a link in the chat pod to where you can find these videos if you'd like to share them with your students in your classroom. But this is Diana Contreras, and she is the Senior Director of Distribution for Dollar General. So I'm going to stop sharing, but before we do that, I want you to think about these questions as you watch the video. And these questions are, these are the two questions as you're watching the video, which is about a little over 3 minutes. Diana discusses specific skills Dollar General employees need. What are they? And then number 2, what other pearls of wisdom does Diana share during the interview? Okay.
My name is Diana Contreras. I'm currently with Dollar General Corporation in San Antonio, Texas, and I am the Senior Director of Distribution there. For the transportation, distribution, and logistics industry, there is an overwhelming demand for entry-level and intermediate workers. It's everywhere. The competition is so high that we're all fighting for everybody. So we're all out there at job fairs looking at each other's booths going, man, I need to get those people in here. So it's out there, and we need them. Not only just employees, but exempt as well. And we don't only want to bring them in, we want to keep them. But there's an overwhelming demand. In transportation, distribution, and logistics, depending on what employer we're with, now it is an employer's market to cater to the employee. So a lot of the industry, they will have train-the-trainer courses that'll start you out. They'll have ESL classes, they will have GED classes, they'll have certifications, they will have leadership development programs. And from there, the sky's the limit. If you want to work in the medical side, you can do that. If you want to work in the training side, accounting, demand chain, supply chain, anything you want to do, it's here for them. We need truck drivers. That's probably going to be the fastest growing career opportunity in the next 5 years. We know that in the state of Texas, in the next 24 months, there's going to be a need for about 20% more drivers. Nationwide, it's 6%. So that's a hard industry. It's not glamorous to be a truck driver, but it's essential and we need it. If we can't get product to the stores, we're not going to have revenue. There's not going to be jobs. It's a circular motion all the way around. We've piloted a program, and a lot of employers do this across the industry. It's not just Dollar General, but a lot of employers say, hey, if we have employees that are interested in truck driving, they will take and send them to school, pay for the schooling, pay for them to work there, and then give them a contract to drive. So yes, truck driving is a very lucrative, it is a very promising career. Communication and people skills are very, very important. With the transportation, distribution, and logistics industry, most of the time if you're working in a facility, you need to be able to communicate and partner with them, but you need to have respect for each other too. So the collaboration, the cooperation has to be there. It's very important to get the job done. What happens yesterday is not going to happen today. And what happens today will not happen tomorrow. You're never going to get the same day just alike. That's another thing that makes it very interesting, is it changes day to day. We all know that technology is the wave of the future, and everyone has got to get on board with technology. You cannot be stagnant. If you're stagnant, you're going to be looking in the rearview mirror. So we have to get on board with technology. We can teach the technical side. Once they come in, people are resilient. They're smart, they'll learn from you. They just need a chance.
So we answered those questions. So what did we come up with as far as specific skills? What specific skills did Diana talk about?
Did you want me to read some, Anne-Marie?
Yep, that would be good. Thank you.
Okay, Melanie says communication, respect, collaboration, cooperation, adaptability, technology, and resiliency. And Brenda says communication, collaboration, technology, and respect. Larissa says resiliency and technology. And Karen says skills, cooperation, collaboration.
Okay, so
driving a truck.
Very good. That's right. That's right. Hard skills. What did Ginger say? What did Ginger say again?
The hard skill, the CDL, soft skills, people, and communication.
Very good. Okay, so you guys all brought up some good ones, and these are the ones that I saw, which you have all named. Communication and people skills. She mentioned we can teach them the technical side. But what we need from them is the communication and the people skills. Dollar General is very much a people-oriented company. So they wanted collaboration and cooperation. This one is, yes, they can teach the technical skills, but they need the interpersonal skills. And then I loved this one. No looking in the rear view mirror, okay? You've got to be up on the technology. And then finally, I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's an employee market. They literally can't find enough people to be truck drivers. Okay? All right, so I just wanted to share that with you again. I think it would be a great idea to share these videos with your students in your classroom, and you can find them on that link to the Standards 2.0 page on the TCAL website that Olga put in the chat pod, and I'm going to put all these resources in the community of practice for ILEA after we're done. So I want to talk about alignment and connection again, and we saw this slide when we met during webinar 1, and I want to just remind everybody that what we're trying to do is we're trying to integrate our instruction so that education and employment goals are aligned, and they do not need to be separate. They can be connected. So I want you to think of the new Standards 2.0 as the perfect intersection between the academic skills that our students need with also the information needed to contextualize your instruction so students are more prepared for a job that they want to seek. And that was one thing that we learned from the employers more than anything was they need to come with these specific skills or we're going to have to pass them by and we're going to have to hire somebody else. So think of Standards 2.0 as that there's a connection. They don't have to be separate. And also, I think it's also worth mentioning that Standards 2.0 has not changed. Okay? It has not changed. The standards have not changed. The standards are the same. We've just added those ONET critical skills, the detailed work activities, and the industry cluster examples. So now what we're going to do, I want to see, let me check real quick here before we move on, is are there questions? Okay, Olga, you let me know if there's questions, okay? All right, so we are going to look at how we can take the lessons we already have and Standards 2.0 them. Do we really have to start from scratch, and what do we need to add? So what I'd like you to do now is to look at your rubric, and that was one of the handouts that I asked you to download and have ready. And we're going to take this rubric and we're going to look at 2 sample lessons, and we're going to think about how the lessons line up when we look at different categories in this rubric. So the first thing is we're going to see what the categories are. So if you're looking at your rubric, which you should have in front of you, I want to go over the rubric categories. And it's a 2-page rubric. And so we're going to start with the degree of alignment just to Standards 2.0. And it's a Likert scale, which means that it's going to be a strong alignment to absolutely no alignment at all. And then part of this rubric, another category, is the employability skills. And we're really thinking about those employability skills from the employability skills framework. So you want to have that framework out too, okay? We're going to go back and forth between a couple different things as we look at these lessons. What is the quality of the content? Think about the quality of the content. Is it newer content? Is it, just think about the content, the quality of it. The utility of the materials, how user-friendly are they? Are they related to what, the student's interest? Quality of assessment, quality of technology activities, and then also the opportunities for that deeper learning. And we think about that deeper learning, we're thinking about the metacognition and those cognitive critical thinking skills for Bloom's taxonomy. Are we given the opportunities to have critical discussions and really think on a deeper level and problem solve? Okay. And here is the rubric. This is the first page of the rubric, and like I said, it is 2 pages, so some of those skills are on the back side that I just talked about. And the Likert scale being superior, there's a 4 to 1, 4 being the highest, 1 being the weakest, obviously. So this is your rubric, and now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some lessons. So keep your rubric out. But now I want you to look at that lesson that I also asked you to download. All right, so this one is a lesson, and I want you to promise me that you're going to look at these lessons. These are older, but they're great. These come from the Minnesota Literacy Council, and they have a story bank of short stories. And this one is My Daughter is Sick. So this one is very good, and it's a beginning ESL lesson. So we're going to walk through this lesson pretty quickly because we want to talk about what we can do differently, and we're going to score it using the rubric. Okay? So this is called My Daughter is Sick, and I gave you a copy of this. And they did lesson plans for ESL as well as GED. And we're going to look at a math lesson in a little bit. All right, so when you look at your rubric, you're looking at the employability skills. That's what we're looking at right now, okay? Employability skills. So this is the employability skills. When you look at the rubric, this is it blown up. So the material, how closely does the material connect to industry context and one or more categories of employability skills? So think of your employability skills framework and think about those macro skills and those micro skills. And for the sake of time, I just want to show you this, but we're not going to go over this. I just want to show you this. So when we're thinking about employability skills, this is our framework, and you have this handout too. Okay? So again, we're going to look at the ESL lesson. We're going to walk through it right now, and we're going to decide where it falls on this category. Is it a 4? Is it a 3? Is it a 2? All right. So the first thing is that this is a beginning English as a second language lesson, and it is talking about using the phone, excusing an absence, and using survival English. All right. Now, the step 1 is to provide the context. So we want to find out from our students, do you have children? Do they go to school? Do you call into school sometimes? What do you do when they're sick? Okay, so we're building context. And then this is very common when we teach ESL, and it is called picture story elicitation. How many of you teach ESL? This will look familiar to you if you've done this. Okay, step 2. Okay, so Ginger does high school. So you are seeing this on, this is on the second page of your lesson. Okay, so on this, when you're doing step 2 of story elicitation, what you are doing is you are helping the students build a story with every picture. And you're using the students' own language and experiences and observations to create a product and basically their own story to understand. Okay? And this is called the language experience approach. And so you build this story, and the teacher asks questions for every frame. Okay? So then they do silent reading, and this is in your packet. Then the teacher reads and the learner follows. And then finally, the teacher reads, the learner repeats. And then there's also step 6. So step 5, the teacher reads, the learner repeats. And this is going through this very quickly, just to give you an idea of what a lesson would look like. And then choral reading at the end as the story develops. And then the learner reads with a partner. So each step, you're scaffolding until finally the learner reads with a partner. All right, and then they do a comprehension exercise to see if they get it. And this is all in the short story packet that you can download off the website. So you get an idea of what the lesson will look like. We didn't spend a lot of time on the lesson. I just wanted to give you an idea. So just based on what you've seen, here we go. Where would you score this on this rubric? Okay? So look at your rubric and look at the employability skills framework, or excuse me, that category of extent to which materials teach employability skills. Where do you place it in the rubric? And yep, okay? And what is it limited to? The material may implicitly address some employability skills and some industry content, but the connection is not well developed. All right, good job, everybody. All right, so we had mostly 2s. Okay, good. All right, so here we go. Let's look at what was actually there. And this was supposed to be interactive, but that's okay. So do you agree with this? They're using some applied academic skills, right? Uses reading skills, uses writing skills. Do you agree with that?
There's a lot of yeses.
Oh, I did. Okay.
And it says yes, also some technology skills as to leaving message on phone.
Oh, that's right. Oh, who said that? Don't give that away yet. That's coming.
Larissa.
Very good, Larissa. And then demonstrates responsibility, right? And communication skills. Excellent. How can we Standards 2.0 this ESL lesson to include more employability skills? So here's your first question. Oh, but I do want to look at this. Now, when we're thinking about this lesson, or this lesson activity, really, this is your standard, okay? So in your standards book, you want to be looking at page 79 in the ESL standard. So it is sub-area 3.2, and your sub-area is 2, which is speaking skills, and your sub-area standard is, your sub-area standard is E, demonstrates appropriate speaking skills for persuading and discussing. Now, the industry example here is advanced manufacturing first-line supervisor, but I would emphatically argue that this is needed for any type of supervisor position, right? Any kind of position when you're working with people as a group, right? And you have to demonstrate appropriate speaking skills for persuading and discussing, right? And then, so I want you to be able to see the standard that we're referring to. So again, this is 79, page 79, sub-area standard 2, speaking skills. Sub-area 2, speaking skills, and the sub-area standard is E. All right, so here we go. Now, think for about a minute, the little mouse says. Provide specific examples. How would you add the career context? Go. Oh, wow, Larissa, thank you.
I think Larissa already responded by saying pulling in questioning activities that relate to calling into work and importance of communication with the workplace and for scheduling. Call to work because daughter is sick. Very good, Karen. Very good, Larissa. Melanie says plans on organizers getting someone to cover you at work when you are out with your child.
Excellent. Okay, so you guys went much deeper into deeper learning examples than I did, but we've all came up with basically the same thing. Call into work for someone else other than yourself, maybe a husband. Call into the work to discuss other issue. Now, this is when I started thinking about how could we really think about those discussions that they would need to have. And I said, injury on the job, conflict with a coworker. Okay, that's how you could add the career context. So let's think about this. How would you add the interpersonal skills? We've talked about the workplace skills, but how about the interpersonal skills? Tone. Very good, Karen. Tone. That's right. Oh, we got to watch the tone, right? When we're trying to communicate at work. And one thing I'm thinking about right now that I didn't think of is body language. We learn more from our voice and and our posture. So what are some examples? Let's go ahead and for the sake of time, I want to see, okay, good. Solve problems. How would you add? Let's see here. Respecting others' differences. Excellent. Okay, good, Melanie. Thank you. All right, so what I came up here for this is answer questions. What department? Who is your supervisor? Add a conflict that you need to explain calmly and clearly. Are you missing a big deadline? Report a sensitive issue. How many times do we have to talk about a sensitive issue or something like that? Very good. Okay, so some other ideas for interpersonal skills. Explain the deadline you are supposed to meet. Suggest who can help complete the task. Offer to be available by phone. All right. Explain sensitive issue with more details. These are all ways to really practice those speaking skills and really use that standard. All right, now tech skills, let's just go ahead and look at these. As far as tech skills, you could use your cell phone. I don't think I'd want to text a response, but that's okay. Use appropriate tone for the text, write an email, attach a doctor's note to an email. So these are ideas. And here, Debbie Van Pelt says, a person who has to stay home with a sick child has to remember to call in as well. Very good. Very good. Okay. So now we're going to look at a math lesson. And this is also from the Minnesota Literacy Council. All right. So this lesson is part of the Minnesota Literacy Council, and this is on fractions. And oh my gosh, are there a lot of applications for this lesson. And we're going to walk through this one, and it's high school equivalency, but it can be part of a much bigger lesson, and you have a copy of this too. And this has got a lot of depth to it. So take a look at this lesson. This is something you could turn around and use in your class next week. Here we go. Look at your rubric, and we're going to be looking at the overall focus to Standards 2.0. The overall focus. And the focus would be how well are they addressing a standard in 2.0, the Standards 2.0. And I struggled with how to rate this, so I'll be really interested to hear what you guys think. So basically, we're looking at the degree of alignment to Standards 2.0 in that one category of the rubric. And the objectives are students will be able to solve problems with multiplication and fractions. Students will be able to solve an application problem without being told what steps to take. Oh my goodness, that's very important on the job, right? One of the employer partners talks about how they want them to come with the technical skills, and they really don't care about the interpersonal skills. They do, but they don't. And that was manufacturing, and that's JR. I would watch that video if you can, because JR talks about, I need them to come with the math skills, or I'm gonna hire somebody else. All right, so the first thing you see in the lesson is this question. You give your child half a candy bar and tell him to split it with her brother. How much of the whole candy bar did her brother get? Okay? And then you walk through the types of things you can ask them to do. This is solving example B, and this is in the packet I gave you. So example B is this question. And then let students answer these questions. Did they draw a picture? Say it in words. Subtract half from a whole, and then a half of that, 1/4. Now, I struggle with math, and so if my teacher is just saying these things to me, I'm already lost. So think about what we need to do as far as math goes, as far as in the way to help them see it. What is the equation we write? And then I give them an example. Why did we multiply? Because multiplying by half is the same as dividing by 2. And this is all part of that lesson that I gave you. It's all in the handout. And then more critical thinking discussion. So I'm going to let Olga talk about this one since she hasn't lended her voice that much. Olga.
So this slide, we're talking about extending the lesson. So these are some activities, some questions that you can ask, or different activities that you can incorporate into the classroom to extend that lesson. And I'm not going to read them. I'll let you read over them. But these are some really good activities to extend that lesson.
Exactly. Thank you. And think about your rubric. What is the last category of your rubric again? Can anyone tell me? I think this is why this is important, especially for math. Yes, Melanie, thank you. Larissa, thank you. And so this gives your students an opportunity to provide think-alouds, draw pictures, demonstrate learning in a deeper way. And so this is what's so good about more critical thinking discussion. And there's more ideas and there's more complex problems, which I did not share, but it's in the lesson plan. Very good. All right, so let's see what we're going to rate it as. So right now, where did you put this lesson as far as that first category, degree of alignment to Standards 2.0? Karen, I agree with you. Oh, wow, Michael, 4. Oh, goodness. We're all over the board here, which is okay.
We have some 3s, very hesitant 3, a 2, a 3, 4, a 2 or 3, a 3.
Okay, this is what I came up with. I said maybe a 2.5. I think that it is between a 3 and a 2 because it directs not all aspects of Standards 2.0. Maybe if you added all of those activities that are in the lesson, yes, I could see be it a 3 or a 4, okay? And how can we Standards 2.0 this math lesson? Yep. Okay, look at Michael. All right, so this is, so you chose B3, and I chose computations. Okay, so Michael is justifying why he would score that. Very good. This is the standard that we chose for this one, okay? And this is on page 45. Computations, build foundations and develop understanding of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of fractions and decimals.
Larissa says to create a more contextualized situation involving work or grocery shopping.
Yep, very good. Yep, okay, good. So how could you provide more 2.0 content? So she says create a more contextualized situation, involve work or grocery shopping. Good. Understanding of equivalent fractions. Yes, that's kind of where I was going, Mike. How would you add more 2.0 content? So you guys are already giving me examples. Is anyone else? Fractions used in CNA for how much patient ate a meal. Very good. I'm thinking about, you guys are giving specific examples. And look at this. Consider Alan's job and his prospect for a raise. There were more advanced questions in this lesson that talked about Alan's job. You could provide scenarios involving retirement and financial planning. Yep, you could change from a family personal context to a general work context like construction. Good, Karen. That's right. But because there were these problems, there were more of these problems in this lesson that went into Alan's personal life. He was going through a divorce and all these things. I said switch it to more work type things. And then how can we find workplace examples? What are some examples? Karen, you said construction. Karen Blue, fraction used for CNA. Cooking. What about our example from last webinar with the diet? And I think it was Karen Blue or Karen Conduit who gave me the example of calories and fractions, right? Look at all these good examples. And so I said examine How can you find workplace example? Examine the DWAs for the standards you are addressing. So whether we're looking at that standard computations or the one Mike gave us, you look at the DWAs to see the skills that they're going to need to know. Ask students when they will utilize multiply fractions at work, and integrate contextualized math problems for a specific career. And you guys have all said these. Pipe welding, HVAC, nursing aides, medical assistant, dietitian, right? Cosmetology is a good one. Why would you need to know math for cosmetology? And I'm due to go to my hairdresser, and something needs to be done. So I don't have all this white in my hair. Why do I need to know math? Very good. Right. Excellent. So you get the right color. All right, so we're going to wrap things up. You guys are wonderful. Look at all these examples. So where does Standards 2.0 fit? When we think about contextualized instruction, we want to look at three different things, or we want to blend three things together. We want to use our Standards 2.0, and we want to use our standards, and we want to think about the employability skills using the employability skills framework. But now you have a rubric that you can use to evaluate the lessons you already have, because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You just want to think about how you can career infuse it a little bit. Provide that career infused content with the lessons you already have. And finally, as we close out, I want to share this resource with you that I'm very, very excited about, and I hope at some point to get them to present on a Tech and Tell. But how many of you are familiar with the City University of New York Career Kit for high school and ESL learners? All right, now the reason this is important is there's two kits. There are two kits. There's one is the Career Fundamentals that provides the lessons, contextualized lessons for all these different fields, these different industries that were tied to the New York labor market. But what is applicable to Texas are the ones that are in blue. Healthcare, manufacturing, construction, transportation, and warehousing. And I've looked at all of them, and they're really good lessons. And you could start using those. Plus, with ReadWorks, you could dovetail the ReadWorks article into some contextualized lessons for healthcare very easily. They go really good with that. So check this resource out. And also, they have a wonderful one. You're welcome, Karen. They have another one that is for exploration. So when you do your goal setting with your students, you could make this a part of your intake or the first week of class. So that goes with it, and it's all free. And then they also have high school lessons. Not high school lessons, but ABE, ASE type lessons that you can use. So these are my questions for you as we leave today. And I want some specific answers. I asked this in webinar 1, but think about what you've learned in the last 2 webinars. We've looked at the standards. We've looked at the employability skills framework. We've looked at a rubric. I've given you several more resources, and I want you to share one measurable step you will take to integrate Standards 2.0 into your instructional practice or career navigation with students.
Anne Marie Karen says, I understand better how to specifically add 2.0 to existing lessons. And Ginger says, wonderful information. The rubric helps so much. I will share this with instructors in making their lesson plans.
Wonderful. And Brenda says, I want to explore the career kits. There's one that I hope that you think about that I'm not seeing, and that is, Melanie, have you taken time to go over the structure of the Standards 2.0 book with your teachers and have them read the introduction? Get your teachers looking at the introductions. And so I just want to close out by saying thank you all very much. And the reason we're not going to put these webinars in the PD portal as a course, We're going to offer these live to the programs that need them so that I can offer them live to a full room of teachers. So if any feedback is much appreciated in an email as I still try to fine-tune these. So I want to say thank you again, everybody. It's been a pleasure and absolutely wonderful.